Good afternoon, dear students. Coming to the last class of mine, again, I was supposed to complete this essay. So, where he speaks about this students' atrocities, where they where they damage the public property. So, this particular essay, as I told you, in this particular essay, Priestley is attacking the student fraternity. He feels that they should come out of this kind of feeling. So he feels that universities and colleges are learning centers. They are not meant to what? Meant for, they don't teach you to damage public property. Again, he feels that these students should be given what? Certificates on get certificates on them for damaging public property, and they can be taken for the position of demolition squads or wrecking crews or again for such positions. And in the next paragraph, in this enthusiasm, not for politics but for destruction and violence, these students may be said to be taking their proper place, right up there in the van, giving a lead to youth everywhere. For we live, I repeat, in a curious age, which is trying hard to abolish want and disease, but is also abolishing without trying any regard and respect for other people's positions. And it is in the countries where lads are now most carefully and expensively nurtured that they proceed to know hell out of everything. They may grow up under capitalism or socialism, but what they really care about is vandalism. Vandalism means what? Vandalizing or destroying public property. Vandalism. They may adopt socialism or capitalism. They may support democracy. So capitalism in the name of democracy. They may support socialism or communist rule. These students group, again, they may follow two political way of life, but but what they have really learned, have they really learned anything out of life? They are nurtured comfortably from by their parents, and they don't know anything else. They don't know the seriousness about life, seriousness about studies. The only thing they know is what? Destroying or vandalizing or demolishing or what? Causing so much of destruction, okay, or demolishing. So they only know, what they really know is vandalism. Vandalism means to demolish public property, to destroy public property, vandalize, to loot, vandalize. So now they have the sufficient money to take special trains to football matches. They will wreck them on the back. Well paid and full fed youth has already than all the hungry millions of the big age. So you all know what is happening across the world. You should watch the football matches, the World Cup football tournament, football World Cup. You can see the army, the football team supporting group. They are called as Bami Army. So wherever they go, create nonsense. They are known for hooliganism. They are known for vandalism. So they destroy the public property. They damage the public property. So he is speaking about they are all nurtured. They are all well fed. They are all well fed. They are all nurtured well by their parents. They are all brought up. They are all brought up well by their parents. They don't know about the harsh reality of life. They don't know what is ಕಷ್ಟ ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. What is pain? They don't know what is pain. So in such a situation, those people hardly care. Such people hardly care for what is already built, means what is already existing. So a woman who had taught, again, towns that would not risk a penny rate for the arts are now having to face a bigger bill every year to restore public property that has been idiotically or malevolently destroyed. A woman who had taught in junior schools for 40 years told me that the most recent children were far and away the most destructive she had ever seen and ever known. They just wanted to smash things. So this is the trend of present generation. This is the trend of our present generation. You see, if somebody, um, this is what happens if you call for a band or a strike or a dharana or a jata. Public, particularly people, young generation, they don't know the ethics, they don't know the value of life. So it is all because of misled education. They have not learned the real values through education. Through education, education has failed to imbibe values in such children, in such use, because you see, they easily take up violence as a serious path to attain. Means they feel satisfaction if they destroy something, they feel happy. So this is the trend, this is the generation, and moreover, you can see particularly this kind of trend is quite popular in countries like America and Europe, in European countries. The reason is they can easily attain, they can easily own a gun, you know, for the sake of pleasure, they are ready to do anything, they are ready to damage anything. So he is speaking about that. He says, in fact, this essayist says, Priestley says he had met a teacher, a school teacher who teaches juniors to school students for 40 years. She has got 40 years experience. And what is she saying? She says that she speaks about the falling standards of children in schools, the falling standards of children in schools. Do they give hope or importance to relationship? Do they try to make new friends? Is there again, and moreover, schools again do require learning atmosphere. And you should also blame parents for this. Parents also have to play active role. They also need to play active role in nurturing their children in a proper way. Again, parents, society, teachers, they should all join hands in shaping the future of a child, because child learns everything from society. If the parents are negligent about their own children, this is what happens. If you don't know what is your son doing, if you don't follow his track or traits, if you don't follow him, if you don't know what he is doing, this is what happens. So you don't know, you just give him the mobile phone just to avoid him. So that he should not be a nuisance, so that he should not create any problem at home. Normally, parents give mobile phones to their children, but we don't know what they are going to search for in those again smartphones. Okay, they what means what are they going to look for? So you are all fully aware that what is happening because of this video games. That is again PUBG video game, and there are certain video games where they play on your psychology, isn't it? So it may again spoiling the young generation. So this again, essayist is speaking about that. He is very concerned about the education setup of England. So what is the condition of India? So whatever that is speaking there in that essay, whatever that is addressing, the issues that he is addressing in this essay is very much relevant to the condition that that you see prevailing in India, isn't it? The condition that we schools conditions, as you can see. So schools do a lot of fees, and parents pay fees, and they think that they're going to do everything. So schools cannot nurture or imbibe, teach values to children. It is the role of your parents. If it is the role of the parent to teach the values, ethics, and this basic necessities of life, basic needs of life, and good mannerism, good behavior, these things are not taught by schools. Schools are meant just to educate your children. That's it. So it's not like those days. Those days, teachers used to spend most of their time nurturing values, or again imposing, not imposing, you can say. Um, Again, they used to tell stories, moral stories, uh, stories where they used to mold the character or behavior of a child, isn't it? During those times, we had better teachers. Hmm? So, what is the condition? Like you can see, in Delhi, one particular incident happened 2 months back, that for the sake of money, two boys killed their own friend. So their own friend for the sake of money. So these incidents are quite obviously it's happening here across India. So he had experienced such a condition in England during those days, Priestley. So that is the reason why he has written an essay. He has written an essay on condition of students. So he wants to bring in change through this essay. 19, you just imagine 1919. He was a student at Cambridge University, and this is what he had seen. Isn't it almost 100 years before? We are in 2020. We are speaking 101 years. Okay. So Priestley had experienced that kind of situation in England, or felt he had gone through that kind of situation in England during those days. So that is the reason why this syllabus, this essay has become part of syllabus. If you are a teacher, teach this in your schools. Tell the students how to be in the classroom. Okay, how to treat their fellow classmates. So normally they don't treat fellow girls, classmates who are girls, usually girls, they don't treat them as sisters, right? And usually they have got, again, they develop a kind of different feeling towards them. And this is what the present condition of education is in India. And it was there, this kind of situation existed even in England during those days. The present condition in England is not better, even it has worsened. Even today, again, you don't see some changes happening in England. No, you don't see such changes. No changes has taken place. No such change has taken place in the education system of England. So there, hooliganism, vandalism, it's still. So they are all well grown up, women's well nurtured, well fed children, isn't it? This is what happens. They hardly care for values. They hardly care for values. Such children who are well fed, who has been given all the facilities by their respective parents. So what happens? They don't have respect for teachers, schools, ethics. They don't have any value, again, respect for values, isn't it? So this is what he had found, Priestley, during those days in England. So it is as if creatures from other planets had arrived, taking the shape of playful kids, where things on the lines in the hope of derailing expresses. So he feels that again, they behave like as if though aliens have landed from different planet. Okay, it was rough in north when I was a boy there. Boys came to elementary schools in clocks. Clocks means almost wooden clocks. ಮರದ ರಿಪೀಸ್ ಪಟ್ಟಿಗಳು ಅಂತೀರ ನೀವು clocks. Okay, on Saturdays nights there were drunken fights. So on Saturday nights, weekends, drunken fights with with much smashing of crockery in the streets. Okay, we smash much smashing of crockery in streets, back 0 till mill. And when in my middle teens, I played football, sometimes on grounds made out of cinder tips. In a locally, both players and spectators could be very rough indeed. So he speaks about his own personal experience. When he was a child, he studied in a school in northern England, where he met the rough guys, some of the rough guys. So he feels that while playing football, some boys were very, very rough indeed. And football, in fact, is a rough game. It's a rough game. Okay, but I don't recall any of the curiously male violent destructiveness and this violence that mark our present time. If youngsters together with their parents were aggressively rough, it was because they knew no better. But I cannot remember any of the deeply disturbing psychopathic elements that seem so common today. So he had not experienced such a psychopathic experience or such a psychopathic scenario in the past when he was in school days. He had not experienced such days in his school days. But what he is witnessing during his time when he was grown up, it was horrifying for him. It was horrifying. There might be fights between pugnacious equals, but helpless people were not being off-killed merely to round off an evening's amusement. They used to fight for evening amusement. Our destructiveness and violence today do not seem to come from any surplus of energy from neurotic or even psychotic heartlessness, a cold disregard of other persons, a hatred of life. So these are the factors for such a rude behavior. So it has no connection for again with neurotic or psychotic heartlessness. It is something to do with disregard, carelessness, at the same time what a mere hatredness, developing a kind of hatredness towards others in life. So this is what is not necessary for children to develop again as part of their character or behavior. So, and something very much like only, of course, further developed and more subtle, a script like a huge cold serpent into too much of our fiction and drama. There are people among us who don't seem to belong to human race. And while I don't join a mob to smash their windows, overturn their cars, burn their furniture and books, I'll be damned if I'll admire them. So what happens here? So again, since he doesn't admire such a practice or such a behavior, rude behavior, he is not allowed to be their friend. What happens? And while I don't join a mob to smash their windows, overturn their cars, burn their furniture and books, I'll be damned. Damned means it has been kept out if I'll admire them. So at the same time, it is all very hard, bewildering, really rather frightening for while we can just about deal with it today. What will it be like tomorrow? No sooner do we appear to have made the world safer than the strange off-made gleam comes into its eyes. The young arrive, eager not to create but to destroy. So he is speaking about the horrific days to come. He is speaking about the future. So if such is the case, such is the condition in the present scenario, what would be the future of this world? So we are not shaping better generation for the future days. Are we shaping better generation or a good generation? Do you find people like Kalam or anyone who can be considered as a role model in the present condition? No, not at all. So because people like Abdul Kalam, imbibed such values from their teachers. They had such good friends. He had such a good friends when he spent his school days in Rameshwara, somewhere in the southern tip of India. So what I mean to say is the nurturing, upbringing, the condition where you grow really matters. Okay, you should be what there should be what you should be in a position of starvation. You should starve for things, starve for food. You should be thirsty, hunger for knowledge, hunger for there is a need of hunger for everything. You should be hungry for everything. You should be thirsty for everything. You should starve for everything, not well fed up, well again nurtured, or a boy who grows up in a comfortable situation cannot be a role model. A boy who has grown up who has nurtured, who has been nurtured by a humble background, a poor boy who knows the values, who is fully aware of the values of food, property. You should not hurt someone. You should not ill-treat someone. You should not hate someone. So if you are nurtured in such a humble background, naturally and normally you will be humble, and you the way you treat the society, the way you treat the fellow classmates and fellow beings. Again, you can see the finest example is Abdul Kalam, which I gave you now. Again, the finest example. So what I mean to say again, this fellow experienced basically, he felt so unhappy, and he's also worried about the future. What would be the future if such a again this continues? If we continue with the same kind of generation, is it like those since the students never marched to build a house, but only to knock one down. Like those sinister puffs of steam we notice in New York streets at night, threats of violence, okay, puffing from some hell below, multiply even while we celebrate, we elaborate, sorry, the techniques and apparatus of a world civilization. And though I am familiar with all unusual explanations, H bomb, no religion, bad homes, and irresponsible parents. dead-end jobs, boring environment, and the rest. I remain puzzled, never entirely convinced, still wondering if there might not be some unknown factor acts in the dark. Meanwhile, I think I could take footage showing me students making something instead of breaking something, or even just studying. So again, as I told you, again the essayist is very concerned about future. So he wants the young generation, he expects the future progeny, future generation to change themselves. So that is the reason probably he has written this particular essay. I feel that this essay has to be uh, placed on the notice boards of JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University, and so many other universities where you see students becoming what? Hooligans, who again would hardly care for any ethical values or religious values. Who hardly means these students are organizations in the universities, in the colleges have become rampant. They are so rude. They don't know they rag. There is a problem called ragging existing in the colleges. They ill-treat the juniors once they enter the college. Okay, so it is quite common. You can see. So this problem is quite visible in colleges. So in keeping all that in mind, Priestley wrote this essay. So he wanted the future generation to read it and to mend their ways. So in that in that cause, again, he has really succeeded. Sorry, he has succeeded. He has really succeeded in achieving his intentions. In achieving his true intentions. So, so I do personally feel that you should keep this essay as a part of syllabus in colleges, in schools, and you should teach them how to be in the society. So in the same context, people like Matthew Arnold. There is a Matthew Arnold important critic of 19th century England. Matthew Arnold also discusses the same issue. He speaks about the failings, again, the collapsing values. He speaks about the gradual fall of ethics. He speaks about the again. He says that how the values and ethics and how all the established institutions like religion, how they are crumbling down. Education, religion, education system. You can see everything is crumbling down, falling down, isn't it? So Matthew Arnold speaks about that culture and anarchy, Sanskriti ಮತ್ತು ಅರಾಜಕತೆ. So you can keep that in mind, like culture. And even Matthew Arnold served as education officer for 35 years. He had visited so many schools across England. So after visiting those schools, he found it so he found those again the school going children. If he finds a difference in their attitude, in their what perception about life, in their perception about life. So he admits that that is the reason why he wrote Culture and Anarchy. So still again, students, school-going children, they gave college students, they all gave importance to what? Materialism. So that is the reason why he was shocked, baffled. Matthew Arnold, that is the reason why he wrote the book called Culture and Anarchy. So this particular essay again, also again, he might have written after 30 years, probably 30 to 40 years after Culture and Anarchy. After Culture and Anarchy was published, you can see the situation that was existing in England during that time. So read the essay, you definitely enjoy it. So teach this essay or read this essay in front of your children, explain them and tell them how to be in schools, how to behave in schools, okay? And that is how you can bring it into practicality. Whatever that you learn, you have to use it practically, isn't it? You have to use it in practical in your day-to-day practical experience, right? Then only the knowledge that you have attained or grasped or the knowledge that you have derived through proper education can be used in a better way. So coming to another important text, that is a poem. Let me teach you a poem that is Fear No More the Heat of the Sun by William Shakespeare. This particular poem was part of, again, it's a part of a play called Cymbeline. It's a part of a play called Cymbeline, and it's a comedy, it's not a tragedy. And this particular poem was, again, since it has been picked from that play called Cymbeline, you have to read the play called Cymbeline. At least if you can't read the play, he has given you the gist, the context. So see, Shakespeare writes poems, some poems in between his plays. You have the best example is Polonius' advice to his son. Okay, Polonius' advice to his son, and there is a song of Ophelia in Hamlet, and Polonius' advice to his son in the same play, Hamlet. Okay, sorry, and there is the songs of Ophelia in Hamlet, and Desdemona's song in Othello. Okay, so Shakespeare uses songs. You have songs even in Tempest, the play called Tempest. So that is read as poems. Okay, here you have a beautiful song. Here, the context of the song is you have a character called Imogen, and she is the daughter of Cymbeline. Cymbeline ruled England once upon a time. He ruled England once upon a time, and Imogen, she is the daughter of that Cymbeline, the king of England once upon a time. So this girl, Imogen, marries a man called Posthumus secretly. So he was a courtier. He was just a courtier on Astanica. He was working in that court of Cymbeline, the king Cymbeline. She marries him secretly. Since she was in love, Imogen, she marries a man called Posthumus secretly. So what happens in the story? There you can see there is one more character, that's the queen. The queen is the second wife of Cymbeline, means stepmother to Imogen. And that queen has got a son called Cloten in the play. Cloten becomes the future, again, she makes sure that he would be the prince. Who? The queen, she makes sure that the stepmother of Imogen, the second wife of Cymbeline, she makes sure that her son Cloten becomes the would-be king of Britain. So that is why she makes sure that he is appointed as the prince. He is appointed as the prince of England. And also she comes to know about Imogen's secret relationship with Posthumus. With Posthumus, and she narrates this information. She shares this information with her husband, Cymbeline. The angry Cymbeline banishes Posthumus, and Posthumus leaves for Italy. And what happens in the story? There is a twist. This girl languishing, she is in London, England, and this man Posthumus has left to Italy as part of punishment, and there comes a character called another Ichimo. Ichimo is an Italian who says that again Posthumus is so firm about about the character. He is so firm about the character of his wife. He feels that she is so chaste, she is so pure, nobody can think of spoiling her. And she is so loyal to him. She is waiting for him in London. But this man, Ichimo, Ichimo, in fact, Iachimo, in fact, challenges Posthumus. In fact, he challenges Posthumus and goes to England, and he hides in a trunk that has been kept in Imogen's room, and he steals some of her clothes and brings and shows it to Posthumus. Once he comes back and shows it to Posthumus, and this idiot Posthumus doubts on that girl, and he suspects on his girl. In fact, he plans to kill her, on his wife. He suspects his wife, and he plans to kill her. And in fact, he invites her to meet a man called there's a man called Fisanio, an Italian. So he sends Fisanio to give her something. And but Fisanio, this Posthumus had a wish to kill his own wife. Again, that is Imogen. But as I told you, Fisanio is in no mood to kill her. He's an appointed Supari killer. Fisanio. He kills there, but he was in no mood to kill her. And instead of that, what he does, he gives a powder like a substance, a medicine-like substance to her, which was given to her by the queen. Okay, that's a substance, it's not a poison. The queen had thought that it's a poison. So she gives it to Fisanio so that he should give it to Imogen, so that after consuming that she would die. But it's not but she also tells the lie to the Fisanio that it's not a poison. But in fact, it was not a poison. Fisanio gives that powder, that medicine-like powder, to Imogen and tells her that this is given by Posthumus to you, and you have to consume it when you want. And this girl, what happens? She goes in search of Posthumus, and she wanders in search of Posthumus, and finally she reaches a cave. She reaches a cave where you see a character called Belarius. Belarius is the same man who kidnaps the two children of King Cymbeline. So those two sons of King Cymbeline, the two own brothers of Imogen, who had been kidnapped by Belarius. So Belarius had kidnapped them when they were too young, in order to take revenge on Cymbeline. So Belarius is living in a cave with the two children of Cymbeline, so born out of the first wife, who are the own brothers of Imogen in the play. So both the brothers, they come to know that Imogen is their sister, is their own sister, and what happens there? So they feel they feel that Imogen consumes that powder, and she falls asleep, and all those two brothers, they feel that their sister is dead, and yes, she has been killed by this character called Cloten. Okay, she has changed her name, called Fidel. She now, once she enters the cave, she has changed her name. Okay, and she is addressed as Fiddle. Okay, Fiddle in the play, and they feel that she has been killed by the Cloten. Okay, Cloten, who has been appointed by the queen, but Cloten's head has been removed by these two brothers, and when they come to know that, when they come and see their sister's body, she was already asleep after consuming that medicine. They think that she is dead, but she was not literally dead. So what happens there? At that juncture, these two brothers, okay, speak or address their sister in this poetic, through these poetic lines. You can see that. So this particular, these lines, this particular song is a song addressed by both the brothers, who are they? Guiderius and Arviragus. Arviragus and Guiderius, they are the two brothers who address their sister, who refer their sister in this song. They feel that their sister is dead. It's a funeral song. It's a funeral song, and they feel that their sister is dead. And you can see, so in stanza 1, what happens? Fear no more the heat of the sun, nor the furious winter's rages, though their worldly task has done. Home are gone, and then the way they rages. Okay, they rages means strong winds here. Home are gone, and then the day rages. Golden lads and girls, okay, all must as chimney sweepers come to dust. This is the song. This particular paragraph is sung by Guiderius. Okay, Guiderius, our brother, as the dead body is decorated with flowers, the brother thinks that she is dead. So he is attributing these lines to his sister. As the dead body is decorated with flowers is lowered with an open grave, his first thought is the fiddle is safe from the ravages of nature. Neither the fierce heat of the sun nor the swift cold winter would have any effect on his wife. So, sorry, not his wife, his sister. So, again, you can see those two brothers, they are singing, again, praising the condition. Again, because for all these days, they missed their sister. When they come to know that when they reached the cave, when they had gone out for hunting, after coming back from hunting, when they see their sister lying like a dead body, they were so again raged and disturbed. At the same time, they want to give a good ending, proper ending through a proper funeral to their sister. So after having done this work in this world, he goes, man is like a laborer. That is what he means here. Man is like a laborer. Home are gone, and then the wages. Golden lads and girls are all must, as chimney sweepers come to dust. Speaking about death, the wages he kept represent the reward be given by the God for the good done here in this world. So it's like after death we are all living. After completing our work on that particular day, we are all living to home, right? It is like the labor gets the wages. So God gives you the wage. It's like the gifts of God. God has given you the gift once you are dead, isn't it? So again, reward to be given by God for the God done here. What is good? Whatever that good that you have done here on the earth. So God gives you the reward. So he seems to feel that the peace is brought to the soul by death. Then the stanza is concluded with the idea that death is universal. So as I told you in the first stanza, Shakespeare, through the character Guiderius, speaks about death. So how the relationship between man and death. So death is omnipotent, means death is certain. Death is very much it means it will happen to us. So we are all bound to death. Nobody can escape from death, right? So in the first stanza, this particular character called Guiderius, after seeing his sister's body, so this is what he does. He says that this again, we are all bound to die. So we cannot escape death, and the rich and the poor alike, we all have to submit to death. So nobody can escape from the clutches of death. So in the next paragraph, you can see is another brother, that is Fidelis or the Maggio, again Imogen's brother, that is Arviragus. He is addressing there. I hope you can read that. Read the remaining paragraph. You have the explanation also. I don't think it would be difficult for you to understand this poem. It is beautifully explained here by Madam Punima, Professor Punima. You read those stanzas, explanation there, analysis, stanza-wise analysis, and she has also given you the important difficult words for you to for you to understand. So if you don't find it difficult to understand, there are some unfamiliar words. You can go through those words. So read the poem first and go. Then later on you go to the analysis. Hmm. I don't think even in this poem, that is My Days Among the Dead Are Past, even there the explanation has been neatly drawn. So I hope somehow we were able to understand uh, the topics that I have dealt with in these 4 days. So I have taught you 8 hours these 4 days. Please read the poems, essays. So for fifth paper is also important. Apart from grammar, okay, you have grammar, phonetics, everything. And this is, to be honest, this is a wonderful course. It's a beautiful course for all those aspiring for jobs. If you are aspiring for a job in a private sector, okay, if you are searching for a job, if you have done this course, if you have this certificate, it's like added benefit. It's like added benefit for you. If you go to interviews, produce this certificate, and it will fetch you a job. Don't think that certificate after completing this course, the marks cards issued or the certificate given for this course will not be of no use. Don't think like that. It will be useful for you, and please make use of all that has been prescribed for your syllabus. Learn that properly. Use it in your experience in your day-to-day life. Okay, let it be grammar. Try to speak grammatically correct English. Try to articulate phonetically correct English. That way, you can live up to the expectations of the syllabus, like after learning from the syllabus. So I hope you all have enjoyed these classes. All the best for your future. Thank you one and all. So take care.